Hey guys, I'm Allison Trimble with Willfully Guided Horsemanship. I had posted a video called Point of Contact, which is just saying, wanting people to be really conscientious about what happens when they, take hold of their horse's face or lay a leg on their horse. And I had a really good question that followed that. She said, I hear what you're saying, but my horse doesn't even move off my leg when I apply it. So how do I even start doing that? And that's a good point. I was watching one of Warwick Schiller's videos the other day, and he made a really good point. He was talking about lead changes in particular, but it's really true about everything. Your horse isn't going to know anything until you teach it to them. So you can't expect your horse to understand what laying a leg on them means if you haven't taught them what it means. So there's a pretty decent video on just an introduction to body control, but this will come even before that. And so I'm going to show you just a little bit about applying pressure and teaching a horse to move away from it. Now, in the beginning, you start just as basic as all you want to do is non-specifically have your horse move away from pressure. So one thing that you can do on the ground is just put your finger where your foot would be, kind of, and you can just apply pressure and apply pressure and apply pressure, and when he moves away, I'm going to release it. Okay, that's what you'd be doing with your leg. Now, I want you to think about this too, as far as how you apply pressure with your leg, because a lot of people, the reason that we use spurs is, if you look at my spur, if I go to lay my foot into my horse, I have my foot down and I put pressure and I put pressure and I put pressure and I can turn my toe down and roll my spur. That's the same thing when I use it here, because I can start out with low pressure and I'm going to ask him to move over, and I'm just going to keep pushing harder until he moves. And I might even cluck to him if I want to, and I'm just going to ask him every time. Now he moved his hip there. I'm not going to be super specific on the ground, but this is something that you can do to just teach your horse to move away from pressure, just something that simple. You have to start with a step as simple as that before you go to the other things. You certainly can't expect your horse to just understand something that you haven't taught him. And in that, I think I've said other times, but when you take a horse that hasn't, we use pressure and release because pressure and release is something that a horse can understand, not because a horse automatically gives to pressure. We have to teach him to give to pressure, and we have to be consistent about it. So like, for example, when I first start out with a horse, if I sit here and apply pressure like this and just steady pressure, if I stand here long enough, he'll do what he just did right there, is he'll start leaning back into my pressure, right? And so I could teach this horse to only come to pressure. I could do the same thing if I taught him every time I put pressure onto him, that I kept the pressure there until he leaned into me. And when he leaned into me, I released. I could teach him to come to pressure, but that's not what I want. What I want him to do is, if I apply pressure, I'm going to release when he moves away from me, no matter what it is. And that's what we do when we use the round pen, when we're putting pressure on him in different ways. So it's just as specific when you're using your leg, and you can start that on the ground if you're not a super strong rider, by just applying pressure and releasing. That's really simple. That's probably a pretty simple explanation of it, but sometimes you need to break it down to just that. So if you have any questions about this or have any questions about anything else, I'd really love to hear them. You can visit our YouTube channel at youtube.com/willfullyguided. And remember, enjoy your horses.